What's up, Trader's Edge? It's Mark Sebastian, your only option with your week in review. Today, I'm going to break down what happened in the S&P and what we're watching over the week. I'm going to talk about the Qs. Going to circle back with the earnings that I was really wanting you to pay attention to, and we'll talk about the VIX, and we'll look ahead at earnings for next week. Before that, I want to let you know that the Chicago conference is on for Option Pit. July 22nd through the 24th, I'm going to be hosting a conference in Chicago. We're going to hang out. We're going to learn. I'm going to bring in a bunch of amazing guest speakers. We're going to trade together. We're going to go to a nice dinner. We're going to go to a Cubs game. I lay out the works. We're going to get deep dish pizza. We're going to get Italian beefs, Portillo's. It's the best. If you want to join me in Chicago, pick up the phone, call my team, 888-872-3301, and join me in Chicago. All right, let's dig into what's happening. So it's been a really interesting week for the S&P. The movement, we've had a pretty strong week. We closed on Friday at 48.39. We're up about 50 points, so not the busiest day ever. Certainly not the strongest week, relatively slow. But we're bumping up against this 4,900 level. I want you to notice this. We bumped 4,900 1, 2, 3 days in a row. I think, as I'm recording this, there's about 55 minutes left in the day. If there's a day that we're going to bust through it, I think we could see that into the closing bell today. Or if not, maybe Monday we pop open. That is what I'm paying close attention to. So you can see the high for today was actually a new trading high for the S&P, eclipsing where we were Wednesday. We didn't quite get there on Thursday, but all in all, pretty bullish week. Stronger week for the NASDAQ, which was moved, was really strong up until Friday. It's actually the worst performer on Friday. I'm going to talk about why in a second. And then lastly, the Russell 2000 has been just sitting here doing nothing. Had a really nice pop on Monday and then has essentially flatlined all week. I still think if the market is going to keep going, there's upside in the Russell and upside in the MDY, the mid cap ETF. All right, now let's talk about these earnings. And you'll recall I told you keep an eye on Tesla. Obviously, that's not too hard to think about. Tesla absolutely getting spanked this week. The one I told you to keep a sharp eye on is IBM. This is the new play for AI. I think it's one of the hottest plays. I think IBM could be heading to a new all-time high over the next few months. This is a name I like just as now, along with Qualcomm as my two favorite, tech names with some real potential upside here. So I had you watch that one, and then Intel was the other big one. I wanted to hear what the chip makers were saying and doing, and Intel absolutely clipped. It's down on the year. It's at a year low, back to where it was December 7th. So pretty ugly moves in Intel. Last one that I think is really interesting is AXP. AXP is blowing the doors off, which is interesting when you consider Visa, one of their competitors, is down pretty big, and MA, who has not released their earnings yet, is actually rallying with AXP and not Visa. But really, really strong move for AXP. So far, earnings have been a mixed bag. Now, we have a lot of important earnings next week. The biggest, obviously, is Apple. Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. Those are all next week. So, five of the Mag 7 report next week. The only one we will be missing is NVIDIA, which reports later in the month. Google is also. So let's look and see kind of what they're expecting out of these earnings. And, I love live vol earnings analysis. So they're looking for a little bit less than a 5% move out of Google. That's above the normal move, the normal implied move. So vol a little bit juicy ahead of their next earnings. In Apple, it's actually the options appear to be a little bit cheap. They're pricing in a less than 3% move. The normal move is closer to 4. So if I was looking to play in earnings, Apple might be the one I would look to play around in. Amazon, above normal move, being priced in about 6%. Normally it's about 5.5%. So nothing crazy, but they are pricing in a little more movement out of Amazon. And if Microsoft doesn't have an elevated IV, and it doesn't, this is another really interesting one. It's at it's over $3 trillion. It's had a really nice run this week. They report on the 30th. I think that's going to be the one to really pay attention to for the week. And lastly, Meta. They're pricing in kind of a below normal move. So there's another one that you could look at. But the two I really care about are Microsoft and then Apple, because Apple, I think, is at a crossroads. Is Apple going to be able to sustain the market cap that it has without the real earnings growth? What are they going to be able to say? They've got their watch issues. When I look at Apple for next week, and we can hone in on the options, it's trading 192.85. The 192.5 straddle is only about $7. That is really inexpensive. And I think that this might be one worth playing. I'm going to look at some plays next week ahead of their earnings as Apple flounders about. All right, so there's your earnings. Let's look at VIX. And there continues to be a really, really shockingly tight spread between the index and the February future. February futures appear to be way too inexpensive. I think they're underpriced. The trade I would want to do, long SPY or IWM or RSP, or even the Qs, and then long a VIX call on a ratio like 3 calls for 1 call and SPY, because these futures are way too cheap. So if we do get some selling, VIX futures are going to outperform the selling in the index, and we're going to get some, I think, some really wild moves if we can get some selling. All right, now talking about what we did in our services this week, we had a great week. In NitroTrader, I went short CVS and long WBA as a pair, closed both sides for a big win. In Delta Strike, we closed most of a winner in BP, BAC, NXE, multiple names. It's been a really strong week here at Option Pit. Andrew's been doing, Andrew in the Easy Button Trader has had some huge wins. And Leisha in our 0DTE put on some calls in the Russell 2000 on Monday that absolutely crushed it. All right, everybody. I want to thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to this video if you're watching me on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, like the video, leave me a comment. I want to hear what you have to say and any questions. If you ask me any questions, I'll make sure to answer them in these videos. All right, everybody. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. This was the Trader's Edge. Have a great weekend. I'll be back with my what I'm watching for next week tomorrow. Have a good one.